Well, now let me explain the term mucosa and also serosa. Remember when I showed you the image of the stomach mucosa, I asked you to remember that word, that term, mucosa, because in subsequent lectures, I'm going to use the term mucosa and also serosa quite often. So it's very important to understand what I mean by these terms. And they relate to glandular epithelium. They relate to the glands that I've just been describing, the exocrine glands. Well, you're familiar with this section on the left-hand side. It's a section through the intestinal villus, and it shows the epithelial surface sitting on the lamina propria. Remember, the intestinal villus is a finger-like projection that protrudes into the lumen of the intestine. Well, it's actually an example of a mucosa. A mucosa lines cavities that are connected to the outside of the body, such as the intestine. We'll see mucosas also in the respiratory passages and in the urogenital system. Again, epithelial surfaces that line cavities exposed to the outside of the body. So when we look at an endothelium later on, or the epithelium lining a blood vessel, we don't call it a mucosa. Why? Because blood vessels are not connected to the outside of the body. On the right-hand side, this is a very low magnification of a section through part of the small intestine. And those long extended processes are actually gross anatomical components of the small intestine. And where the label of mucosa is, shows you these villi under very, very low magnification. But remember, the villus, the epithelium, and the underlying lamina propria, plus sometimes a little bit of a little muscle layer you might see there, is called the mucosa. It's facing in towards the lumen. It's a cavity of a tube that's connected to the outside of the body, which is what the gut is. Here's another example of the mucosa. This is the stomach mucosa that I asked you to recall earlier on in the lecture. So now you know what the mucosa means. It's labelled here under low magnification on the right-hand side. Underneath it's supported by what we call a submucosa. And I'll talk about that term later on when we look at the description of the structure of the gut wall. But again, it's just to emphasise that the mucosa is the surface epithelium and supporting connective tissue or lamina propria, which you don't see a lot here because the mucosa is dominated by secretory cells. But it's facing the lumen and it's in a tube that's exposed to the outside of the body through the esophagus and the other parts of the gut. Well, let's look at a serosa. A serosa is an epithelial surface that lines cavities of the body that are closed. They're not exposed to the exterior of the body. Cavities such as the peritoneal cavity, the thoracic cavity, the pleural cavity, the pericardial cavity, all those surfaces are lined by what we call a serosa, a very thin, simple squamous epithelium that's found on the surfaces of these cavities. On the right-hand side is actually part of the large intestine or the colon. If you look inside at the lumen and you see the many folds stained very purple in this section, that's the mucosal surface in contact with the lumen. It's a mucosa because it's lining the cavity of the gut here, which is exposed to the outside of the body. But on the other side of the gut wall, the serosa is exposed to the abdominal cavity, the peritoneal cavity. So that's why it's called a serosa. When I lectured about epithelium, I mentioned that one function of simple squamous epithelium is to act as a lubricating surface. Well, often in these cavities, there is a serous secretion, a watery secretion that helps lubricate these cavities and helps create a friction-free environment, because often these cavities have contents moving all the time. The lungs increasing and decreasing during breathing. The pumping of the heart inside the pericardial cavity requires a friction-free environment, a surface that's lubricated by these serous secreting membranes or cells. Well, in summary then, make sure you understand what a gland is. It's a secretory unit derived from epithelial cells. Make sure you're aware and can identify the difference between serous and mucus secreting acini, or little clusters of secretory cells, and mucus and serous secreting glands. Know the different ways in which the secretion product is delivered to the luminal surface, and know how glands are named, simple or compound, and how they're classified by the way they appear, either unicellular or multicellular. And finally, know and appreciate that ducts are very important in some glands because they can modify the product. In other glands, they merely convey the product to the surface or to where the secretory product is active. So I hope you enjoyed this account of exocrine glands. I hope you now know something about these glands, and I hope you also look forward to learning in a later lecture about endocrine glands and also paracrine glands. So thank you very much for listening.